Well, first I want to say good morning to all who are here today. I want to take this opportunity first to thank all of our partners that you see gathered behind me. It is a significant opportunity when you have partnerships of this caliber gathered together. But before I go any further, I wanted to make mention, I want to thank Governor DeWine for a call that he made to me just the other Tuesday evening as we were going through our particular issues with some crime scenes that we had. The governor called. I was in Captain Simon's office with Chief Davis, and he called and asked, Mayor, what can we do for you? And I mentioned to him today was what was going to happen here in Youngstown, and he said, well, I'll make sure that I tell my people to give you all the resources and all the help that that we can provide for you. And as we're talking, he mentions that I'll let Andy know. Andy Wilson, his director of safety, will be giving a call to you to see what we can do. Ironically, Andy called yesterday, and we talked to Andy yesterday afternoon, and we talked about various things that we saw as a plus and some things that we can improve upon in the city of Youngstown. And today is just our kickoff that we realize that through the partnerships, we can do a lot better together than we can apart. And this is just a significant opportunity for us to do so. And Andy was really familiar with the area, and we had been partnering with them for some time. And Captain Simon's probably going to talk a little bit about some of the metrics that we've been able to achieve with this partnership. But I really wanted to talk today that, as we stand here, that we all agree, no matter what your race, your gender, or your social economic status, or even your geographical location, we all agree that the criminal element and the criminals in your community are not wanted. And so today you can see that the agencies are here, but we're all in a partnership. We all decide, well, we're all going to play our role. And no matter what vowel or letter you have behind your organization, we understand that this is going to be the key to making a successful story for not just Youngstown, across the state and across the county as well. So as we continue to gather, we want to make sure that if you're here, look at this partnership. Look at how you can work together, no matter what organization or civic organization you may be a part of. If you're working for youth intervention and juvenile intervention as well, all of those who are doing that, we ask that you come together and get out of your silos and work together to be some of the same young men and women that we'll be talking to are some that they're already in your program. Or if you're dealing with someone with mental health and social service issues, we ask that you come out of your silos and come together. We know all too well when we look at our national news how strong of an issue as mental health is for us and for our officers and our partners that they go out into the streets. We know that's a significant issue that we face day to day. And I just wanted to take this time once again to say I thank my partners who are here for your continued support. We communicate often, and once again, the governor and Andy Wilson for allowing us this opportunity to make Youngstown a showcase of what it looks like for true partnerships in law enforcement. And now I'll have Chief Davis come and give his remarks as well.
Good morning, everyone. Let me start by saying one thing, and that's one thing that I've learned after I was appointed Chief of Police here in Youngstown, Ohio, and that is, just like the mayor said, the importance of partnerships between local police departments, the Ohio State Highway Patrol, the FBI, the U.S. Marshal's Office, the Ohio Adult Parole Authority, and the Mahoney County Sheriff's Department. These partnerships are crucial for ensuring public safety. By working together, these agencies can share resources, intelligence, and expertise to effectively combat crime. Now, despite the perception, I can boldly stand here today and tell you that the overall crime in the city of Youngstown is down, and that includes homicides, and I believe this is a direct result of many of the initiatives that we have in place. Today, I am pleased to announce the return of the Impact Initiative. This Impact Initiative is a collaboration and partnership of all the aforementioned agencies. The intent of this initiative is to have a positive impact on traffic safety and overall community safety while interdicting community safety. A critical aspect to the success of this mission is to focus on high-volume traffic stops, Officers will be focused on areas which have experienced elevated levels of crime related to narcotics and related to gun violence. As we witnessed 2 days ago, there are many individuals who believe that carrying a gun and using that gun to resolve conflict is the answer to their problems. Our citizens deserve better than that. So during this initiative, you will be seeing a high volume of police activity in many of your neighborhoods. As we look to take more guns off of our streets, our goal is to interrupt criminal enterprise. Our goal is to interrupt where they gather. Our goal is to restore peace and quality of life. We will do this in a fair and procedurally just manner. At the same time, we're going to be strong in going after that criminal element. And if you as a citizen have an encounter with one of our officers, I assure you that they will treat you with respect as they do their job. But all we ask from you is that you be understanding with them while they do their job. Now I want to share with you this morning, Lieutenant Slattery, we have a video from last summer, some of the work that we did working with the State Highway Patrol. Lieutenant Slattery, if you could just narrate what they're seeing here today. We're going to key up the video for you.
You got it, Cap?
Yeah, I have the volume on. Is that okay, Chief?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right,
That's
we'll
fine.
just let them go with that, and I'll explain at the end.
Break for 61, Taurus, 38 special result. About just south of Avondale, 2 on 1 foot. Gonna be running behind 3249 Zerker. Crossing the street, still southbound, crossing southbound. We got one guy in custody, YPD's got him. The other guy's gonna be running 3412. Stop, left side, driver side.
That first one there was from Zedico. The other two
I got a silver BMW, dark tinted windows. Just made the left-hand turn. He's going up into the passenger court. I'll see what he's doing. He goes in and out of the car, but he's multiple stop sign violations and just generally driving poorly. We slipped on him back here, and that's what we were looking for. We lost him. So I have eyes on the target. He is in the trunk of that stolen car this time. With the new right, that's your passenger side door, that guy. He's rolling, and looks like he's taking off single 40. So we're making the left-hand turn on Atkinson. We're making left-hand turn to Atkinson to be westbound Atkinson. And he is going to land. Female is bailing and walking. Green t-shirt, black pants.
When he bails, he's going to throw a big bag of dope right here.
Dreads running southbound from Broadway Street. Okay, in that border at the 1340 Belmont. He's behind the dumpster running northbound through the parking lot. Cars are on him. He's running. He's at the fence, jumping the fence. He's going to be coming out to Fremont. Running for the Dollar General. All units go to the Dollar General. Belmont and Fairmont. Running through the woods. Watch yourself. Watch that traffic. In the woods there. Fairgreen and Belmont. Right there. That's your target. Yep, that's your girl. Nice job, guys. Outstanding cover.
That was just some of the video from the helicopter from OSP from some of our details that we did. We just showed a couple of them. The first one was over on Zedeker. It was we got a shooting called out. There was a rolling gun battle on that one, and we responded to the area, obviously saw the car, ended up in a car pursuit, foot pursuit. We ended up recovering 2 guns on that one. That was on Zedeker. The second one that bailed into the projects up there at ESA, he thought he got away from us. However, we were able to converge on him. He also had a gun in the trunk of that vehicle that he was in when we pulled up on him. And then the third one, that pursuit probably lasted almost 20 minutes, I would say, all over the east side. Dumped the passenger, and then when he bailed, he thought he was free. He dropped about an ounce of cocaine, took off on foot pursuit, and we were in the area to apprehend him. So it's just some of the highlights we have showed you guys from the last year. This was last year's. Really went well. The partnerships we have with the FBI, the marshals, the sheriff's office, and especially OSP, they're out here with us every day, and we partner up. They supply air support. It's absolutely fantastic. I also want to mention the prosecutor's office. Our prosecutor is here also from the county, Gina DeGenova. Thank you for coming. They have really stepped up the prosecution on all these gun charges that we are getting during the initiatives and everything else. And so I wanted to say thank you for coming and showing your support.
Yes, Sergeant. Sergeant.
Good morning. I'm Ray Santiago. I'm a sergeant with the Highway Patrol Public Affairs Unit. As mentioned today, the City of Youngstown Police Department and the patrol and all of our safety service partners are again collaborating to reduce violent crime here in Youngstown. To combat this problem, the agencies are going to conduct a prolonged service initiative throughout the spring, summer, and into the fall. This initiative is going to be data-driven and focus on areas that are statistically showing the highest number of reported violent crimes. This enforcement detail is the latest saturation event, as mentioned by the mayor in partnership with the governor's office. Over the past couple years, Governor DeWine has directed the Director of Public Safety, Andy Wilson, in the Department of Public Safety, along with the patrol, to provide services to local agencies for these types of multi-agency initiatives upon the request of those local officials. Last year, as mentioned, the similar initiative was effective because of the teamwork and the coordination and the mutual support between the Youngstown Police Department, the city administration, and all of the safety service partners you see here today. Throughout this collaboration, this allows us to focus on our shared mission of keeping our communities safe. Some of what the patrol is going to be utilizing in the way of resources will be troopers assigned throughout our Warren district. As you've seen, our aviation section will be active, assisting ground units with observing and identifying active crimes, as well as anything that's in the way of foot pursuits or vehicle pursuits, so that we can increase the safety of how those incidents carry on. We're also going to provide investigative services through our Office of Investigations and troopers that are assigned there that will assist with any long-term criminal investigations that come about, and as well as agents with our Ohio Investigative Unit as we identify any crimes related to alcohol, firearms, or human trafficking. Some of the successes that were spoken about earlier, just from the patrol standpoint, when we did this last year, we conducted over 459 traffic stops over the course of this initiative. That's just the patrol side of the house. As a result, there were 59 criminal arrests, 38 of those were felonies, 41 drug cases were initiated, 11 weapons cases, 3 of those included felony warrants. Some of what we spoke about also in the way of just providing additional services and not just law enforcement, we were also out providing some of those individuals, referring them for drug treatments, and some of those individuals successfully did seek those services out. When you look at some of the numbers that we're talking about, again, over 1,026 grams of cocaine were seized, 295 grams of crack cocaine, over 24 grams of heroin and fentanyl. Again, that was just, what we contributed, in addition to all the work that the women and men did with the Youngstown Police Department and all of our other safety service partners. So we look forward to, again, working together and having an impact in the community. And this truly is an example of what can be accomplished when everyone is willing to work together and listen and truly provide meaningful service with a purpose for a community. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Corey.
Corey? No?
No.
Anybody?
Sheriff's Department?
Okay. Yeah, all right, okay.
Sure, whatever.
Mine.
Thanks, everyone, for being here. I'm going to echo what the sergeant said, what the mayor said, just real briefly. What you're seeing here is what we do all the time, collaborate and work towards crime reduction, right? What you're seeing here is from the suppression end of things, right? What you saw in the video, what we're out here doing with all of our law enforcement partners, the FBI, the APA, the sheriff's office, OSP, all the state resources, is the suppression end of things. We are the end of the line as far as that with law enforcement. YPD and our partners do the best job in the country at it. And our prosecutor's office, takes that to the next level in court by prosecuting these individuals. That being said, crime reduction starts well before us. What I'm here to tell everyone listening here is I'm going to go back to the old adage that it takes a village to raise a child, okay? And we all know this. We've all heard it 1,000 times growing up. Prevention and intervention of crime is more important to us than the suppression of crime. Much of what we're seeing, Corey, your mic's going all over the place here. Much of what we're seeing is our violence through individuals that don't know how to resolve conflict in any other way but to take it to a violent extreme. Now, that's relatively anecdotal, but I can tell you from my experience and everything I've done in my 23 years here, this is most of what we are seeing. It's violence due to unmanaged conflict. And that is beyond law enforcement to be able to handle solely. We can handle it, but it's going to be at an end that isn't a good resolve for anyone in the community in the long run. What we want is for those parents, those school teachers, everyone who is invested in a child's life to learn to teach them and mentor them in conflict resolution very early on. I'm not saying anything that's new or, whiz bang here, folks. We understand that if we can get to our youth early on, teach them how to resolve the issues that they have, teach them the good life lessons that, most of us know, it will not come to what we have seen here over the last couple of days, and generally what we see overall in our city violence. So we have an amazing few mechanisms here in Youngstown to help out with that. Our SERVE program is nationally recognized to help with conflict management, but I would still love it to not get to that far, right? We need to have the families, being families again, sitting down and talking to your kids instead of just texting them or communicating with them, outside of the home. Sit down, talk to everyone that is in your family, and we could go on about this for a very long time, but I think you get the gist of where we need to be at here. So, Mayor, you want to say something to that?
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. Any other questions for anybody?
The one thing I was going to ask the lieutenant before he stepped aside for Sergeant Santiago, if you can come back, just how much of an impact? I mean, that's an amazing video, and I'm hoping we'll be able to get a copy of that.
I don't know. They're going to cost you, Jerry.
But just
Maybe for 21.
what's
What's up?
we've seen these before. We've never actually been able to, for security reasons and everything else, we've never actually seen these in action.
Mm-hmm.
How big of an impact do these make on perhaps not necessarily deterring crime, but getting bad people off the street?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think it's huge. I think you see that through our numbers of the homicides coming down. These guys, the NRU unit, this is special as far as collaborative, but the NRU unit, which is our unit created by the chief, is sort of like a vice unit hybrid street crime unit. It's our neighborhood response unit. Last year, what was it, Chief? I think they got 104 guns off the street. That prevented some shootings, 100%. You know, the year before it was like 138. You know, so in 2 years that the unit's been involved, we're like 250 on guns. You're not going to tell me we didn't prevent some of the shootings that happened out there. So it's a huge impact. And when we have the support of the FBI, of OSP, of the Sheriff's Office, and we're out there working in concert with each other, it's just, it's a wonderful thing to see. And we all work really well together. You know, we know the guys really on a personal basis, and it's nice.
Yeah, one of the things if you notice, or what we talk about is, you know, so, well, how can this help? Because a lot of times these individuals are driving around with guns. You know, erratic. If you saw some of the driving, you say, you know, 4 or 5, you know, stoplights or stop signs they came by. So you see these individuals, they're out carrying their guns, and I get a chance sometime to talk to these young people, and oftentimes I'll ask, you know, why the gun? I'd rather be caught with it than without it, and that's the unfortunate model that's on the street right now. But I think if you heard this, you know, this is our piece of it, but there's the prevention and intervention piece that we've got to get better at. You know, when I say that, I mean, because there's a family or there's a community, there's a family attached to these young men and women that we may be in pursuit. But also, you think about, if you watch that video, the one thing that was really in my mind is that they were running in backyards of other individuals who had nothing to do with what's going on. Imagine the trauma that you would have if you're in your backyard with your family or your kids are outside and this just unfolds in your backyard. So our community is impacted by this as well. So we've got to figure out, how do we get better at making sure these young men and women at a certain point we can teach a conflict resolution. Maybe it's a little different than when I grew up. You know, for conflict resolution, it was, you know, if you had a fight, you would fight and it'd be over with. You know, and you know, I'm 1-0, or I'm 0-2. No matter what the record was, this day is different. So we've got to think different. We've got to think of, how do we get to them? What do we say to them? You know, it's not, well, we'll stop this. We need to figure out what are they thinking? Where's their mental, you know, piece at as well, and their social dynamics of what their household looks like. So, any other questions before we end?
Mayor, question. I mean, how important, especially you talked about the mentorship role, how it starts at home. How important is the black leadership, especially just even if it's going into these neighborhoods, talking to kids, talk about the role that plays in all of this?
It's a significant part. You know, when I can honestly tell you, when I talk to a young man or a young lady, it's, you know, sometimes I have to have that conversation like if they're my kids or my cousins, and sometimes in these cases they are. You know, if we're at a family gathering, my conversation with them is the same as I would give it to my kids. You know, it's definitely with my boys. I think you're going to see significance, you know, with the prayer walks that we're having in the community. When we're out, those pastors are stopping and talking to those neighbors, and it's a refreshing piece. But we've got to be able to capture those young men and women and keep them, you know, for a certain long length of time that we can, you know, mentor. And you always say when you turn 18, you're grown. I truly disagree with that because I'm still paying for my 30-plus-year-olds and still in my pocket. They're never going to be grown, you know, in your lifetime. And, you know, parents are always going to have that wisdom. And I think it's going to be a critical piece where my job as mayor is to bring those to the table who are mentoring. If you're in social service and you're in mental health, let's figure out what part we're playing. We all have our part to play, but we've got to figure out, am I the strongest player in that role? Am I the first intake person? Should that be my first role? You know, should I be on the street when an incident like this happens where I can start talking to the crowd? Or once that part happens, what about the victims who, you know, we always think about those who died, but what about those who we were just shot? If you get, you know, shot, that's trauma. That's a piece for you. Or if the community where the bullets may have just hit the house, no one was injured. that's traumatic for them as well. So we make sure we need to wrap around them with the social service agencies, but the black leaders are continuing to work with our black men and women. We've got a lot of things going on, but we all got to figure out how do we get in the same direction and make sure these young men and women, we can reach them before things get out of hand.
My last question for Captain Simon, with the last few crimes over on the north side, typically a stable neighborhood, how confident are you guys that the patrols, the saturation patrols will work over there and then continue to deter the crime in the more violent areas?
Yeah, I can tell you that. I'm a North Sider. I tell my wife, Todd Cemetery is where I want to be buried. Just put it out there. Ironically enough, you look at these quiet neighborhoods. These individuals. That case, they knew one another. They knew where to go find. It wasn't just a happy. It wasn't like I ran into them downtown. Or I ran into them at the mall. They knew that. Saturation patrol will be big because it's a wide net that we'll cast. I don't know if our saturation patrol could have prevented the fight, but it could have prevented those individuals driving around with the gun. So, Cap, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for coming. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're not going to talk about last night?
If you got a question.
Yeah.
I might as well just address it up here since y'all are going to ask me the same 3 questions anyway. So,
I don't like press conferences.
you got a question, Joe?
What happened last night?
Nothing, Joe. What are you talking about?
The 3 people.
So yeah, we had 3 individuals shot in the Brownlee Woods area last night. All are in stable condition. All wounds were superficial, and we were out till very early this morning investigating that, and that investigation continues. Right now, those individuals drove themselves to the hospital.
You have
The incidents that happened earlier this week with, what was it, 4, maybe 5 different scenes.
Actually, yeah, it ended up being more than that, believe it or not.
What was the interaction there? Were they connected? Were they all?
So yeah, it's a great question, and I'd be remiss if I didn't and I know this isn't what you all want to hear, but I have to say it, is that the YPD Patrol Division, those that were working the beat that day, those that were working side jobs at other places in the city where they want officers, our neighborhood response unit, our vice unit, every single officer in the city had to respond to all these scenes because there were so many and they were so spread and obviously chaotic, as you all saw being on the scene. Virtually the entire detective bureau was out also, again, investigating these crimes. And you don't know what you have at first, right? Because you have chaos all over the place. And that's where, the men and women of our agency did a phenomenal job in keeping it under control, figuring out what happened, talking to just literal dozens of witnesses. And as we find out in the end, right, and this takes a long time to find out, is that all but one of the scenes were connected to the shooting on Todd Lane. So we did have a scene over on Himrod Avenue near Pearl, which was a double shooting. 2 individuals were shot at, 1 was hit. They ended up in the hospital. At the same time, our individual from Todd Lane ended up in the hospital. And of course, figuring all that out and seeing all this happen simultaneously, is a lot to go through. So, everyone did a great job there. Everyone did a great job pulling that together. So the scenes on Todd, Alameda, and Catalina were all related, as I put in the press release, and they were, just sort of sequential steps. Whereas the one on Pearl that would happen simultaneously, was just another crime.
so back to
And then we have last night's,
about what time did that happen?
last night was around 10:50 last night.
And were all these people who drove themselves to the hospital, were they shot at the same place, the same incident?
Yeah, it all occurred at the same incident, on Point View. Yeah.
Was it in a house? Was it in a car?
It was out. The shooting happened outside.
Okay.
There was a vehicle that was shot, and we have that vehicle for evidence right now.
And again, to the point you were making earlier, these all perhaps involve people that don't seem to know how to solve issues without violence.
Correct. So, last night's, or this morning's really, is still, very fresh. We just got, off early this morning looking into that, so we're still trying to figure that one out as far as motive, which motive doesn't matter, right? as far as the courts are concerned, but as far as we're concerned, to try to, ameliorate the crime is to get that conflict resolved before it gets to this point. So we do believe that both the Pearl Street incident, again, for different reasons, right, and the incident on Todd were conflict, however long it was brewing, right? It was individuals that, couldn't resolve their differences in any other way or didn't believe that they could without going to extreme violence. So,
Thank you. All right, that it? Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate you.